everybody. Hello. It's me. It's Andy. Decayed Andy here. No Mikey once again. So we brought in the big swinging veiny D. Big D. He's come back once again. Hi, Big D. No. I thought this was, well, you said you were interested in doing another one. So I thought, oh, well, since there's no Mikey this week and the news is still kind of light, I was like, well, why not bring in Big D once more? Why not? One more round, eh? As they say. But somebody else showed some interest and wanted to talk this week, though I don't have an image of just yet, is someone who I podcast with fairly frequently. It's Mr. George. Hello, George. Exaggerated allergy. There we go. I've got your image. There we go. I'm going to add you to screen. No, it's not the old one. Old long-haired George is long since gone, really, hasn't he? I like this dignified George. Yeah. Professor George has a stylish look. I think you could be like your H.P. Lovecraft kind of Arkham Asylum, kind of professor kind of dude. Have you ever bought yourself a smoking jacket? Do you? No way. How have you never taken pictures wearing it with Nick? No. Yeah. You need to take that smoking jacket, you need a fake pipe, and you need to go to a really exuberant wooden library with just full of books and wooden places and fireplaces and stuff. Oh, yes. Come on. It's a great shot. Yeah. Man. Are you going to do that again sometime soon, do you think? Oh, I bet. Yeah. Mm. How many people were there? Oh. Nice. Oh, that's great. That sounds really interesting. As a place to visit as well. Hmm. Oh, that's cool. Nice. Man, I wish Miss Adam White and Nick worked on a TV show together. I bet they could do a really interesting show. Maybe you could be a writer for her or something. That'd be kind of interesting. Oh. Oh, really? Yeah. Well, that could be fun. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's you need an in. You need that nepotism to get into that industry or to do really well in that industry. Unfortunately, yeah. Mm-hmm. I guess that's why a lot of people start off on YouTube, isn't it? Because even if they get noticed, and at least if they get noticed, it's something. It's potentially a way in. Oh yeah. Hmm. Well, it's probably because it's treated with respect rather than in normal media where it's like, oh, we'll do horror because it's cheap and it's low effort, which is the general consensus from larger producers. Which I get. I kind of understand it because it almost feels like that mentality is like the Hammer horrors of like Christopher Lee's era, but it's not. We're not where we are. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, certainly, definitely. Oh man. Eh. Yeah. It's usually the more like low budget Hollywood official productions, which are the kind of cringy eye rolly ones, which we all know of. I mean, I don't think it's nearly as bad as like the when was it really bad? Like 70s and maybe early 90s. The 70s, I know there are a lot of like I don't put a lot of stock in the Friday the 13th movies personally. I think the first one has an interesting idea because it's like the first big slasher movie, but after that it's just like, all right, okay, yeah. Well, I think that they have done like John Carpenter's Halloween. That's really good. Again, it's one of the first ones. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Shoestring budget. Yeah. Yeah. It did come out at Halloween, right? I'm not just being crazy and thought it came out at Christmas or something weird. Because I know there have been movies that have been seasonal based that haven't came out in the right season, but I can't remember what they are off the top of my head. You know, oh, what a film! There's a fucking movie. That Jesus Christ. Oh, yes, thank you for letting me know, Mr. White. I'll change that. Thank you. I won't be able to hear you.
Oh, he can't, can he?
There
No,
we go.
he
Now
just
he
said
can hear
can't
you.
hear it. Yeah, can you hear us now, Adam?
There we go. The message will come through. Sorry about that.
Hello.
I didn't realize. So people have just been listening to me going, ha, 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 so true.
Yeah, having like half the conversation.
Oh my God.
It's like some weird art
that's brilliant.
installment, isn't it?
It's that
Something
pain of like
to
Mikey not being here, and I'm just like I'm pretending I'm hearing the voices. That's all it was. That's all it was.
Yeah, that's what it was. The absence of Mikey drove you slightly mad, right?
Well, it was the final thing that pushed me over the edge. Gardening was the cause of it, and then Mikey not being here was the thing that finally did me in.
Oh, brilliant.
Well,
Does this mean Andy's now Harry Dubois?
I'll take it. Yeah. Handsome
Sorry,
man.
I've been watching a replay of Disco Elysium recently, so it's stuck in my head.
Oh yeah.
Ah.
Oh,
This is showcased.
Yeah. Possibly one of the finest games ever made, you know. Can't
I need to do a
even
replay about
tell
this.
you.
Is there like a DVD version
George,
of
I
Atmosphere?
bought the game because of your playthrough.
No way.
Oh, that's so good to hear.
Because I enjoyed. Yeah, And then I played the damn thing in a weekend.
Right, it's genius, isn't it? It's absolute.
I couldn't stop.
Right, it's the kind of video game that, you know, people who have like a negative opinion of video games as works of art, I would show them and say, no, this is.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that's literature. It is one of the finest pieces of storytelling I've come across in years.
Absolutely.
Are we talking about Ripper with Christopher Walken?
No, we're not. But that is a lot of fun too. I mean, that's worth watching for the performances, right?
Oh yeah. Well,
I just don't ever play it. Don't ever play it because it's hideous.
Full motion video games. They were a thing that they.
They were. It's just so unforgiving, that game.
Oh yeah.
Ripper, like the first puzzle you've got to do. You know, when there's that drop mug that you need to put together.
Oh my god, it's a nightmare.
It has no feedback.
No.
Like, it doesn't, like, you know, when you get the pieces of the mug correct, it doesn't click together and make a noise or anything or anything like that. It just leaves you.
That's why you go, yeah, but that's the realism factor. That's how you know it's real. And it's like, no, yeah, but it's not fun though, is it? That's not fun.
It's not fun. It's not fun.
No, it's awesome.
I mean, like, realism as well. I mean, this is a game where you've got Burgess Meredith pretending to be like the ultimate like cyber programmer. It's like, yeah, that
do you not believe
doesn't
that?
Really fly. No,
what?
I do not.
What?
Although I do love hearing him trying to deliver the dialogue. Best thing ever, right?
I mean, Walken's the thing that sells the game.
Oh my God. I mean, it is. I mean, you know, it's like, you know, when people think of the stereotypical Walken performance.
Yeah, it's that. That's it. That's the game. Yeah.
It is like, what's he doing with that cigar? Because if you notice, it's never lit.
No, he's massaging it, you know.
He's just got this weird oral fixation, doesn't he? Where every 2 seconds, he like chomps on it, doesn't he? Ow.
Well, that's a deep-seated, integral part of the character, you see, George. It's his latent homosexuality that hasn't came to the surface yet, which he's hiding with the cigar to compensate.
Magnata, yeah, I could actually believe that.
See, that's just bullshit. No? That's like me going to an art gallery and explaining the single droplet on the painting instead of just going, it's a piece of shit. Or in this case, it's a really weird thing. I guess he just wanted a cigar because he must have thought, that's noir.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. Because he is like the noir detective, isn't he?
It's noir.
That's exactly it.
That'll do. I'll jump on the cigar.
It's so good. I mean, like,
it's great.
It's the delivery of his lines that get me in that one. I mean, it's the most Walken of any performance ever given.
Have you ever seen it or played it before, Big D?
I think I've seen bits of it. I might need to go back and refresh my memory at some point, though, because I'm aware of the game Ripper, but it's been such a long time since.
It's
for the
worth.
longest period, my machines could never run the FMV stuff. So
honestly, don't try to play it. Don't, because what you've got to do it's so difficult to get running these days. For one thing, it's so difficult to get running. You need DOSBox. You need to like get rips of the game off the CDs because you're never going to play it with the CDs. You know, it's a nightmare, and also it's not a good game. No. It's an interesting kind of sort of fun story, but it's not a good game by any stretch of the imagination.
It's better to watch a playthrough of it on YouTube than actually play it yourself, especially like you said through the hassle that you have to go through. Oh, any of them?
Let's be honest. I mean,
good.
Some of them are okay. There was one called
Wing Commanders, maybe.
Well, yeah, Wing Commander 4's good. Wing Commander 4's not bad. There's one
with the benefit of cracking gameplay to start with.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? I mean, the Wing Commander games set themselves up well for it because they're basically kind of like flight combat simulators, aren't they?
Yeah.
And that married to the FMV thing, works.
I'd say so.
But the one I used to play when I was like a teenager was the last video game ever made by Gremlin Studios, called Realms of the Haunting.
I don't think I know that one.
That rings bells.
Yeah, that's very good. That's a really good game. Again, it suffers with a lot of what FMV games do. Where the FMV bits, you've got actors not really responding to the environments that they're in because they're added in post and whatnot. But It's actually a good story. There's some decent gameplay in it, decent puzzles and whatnot. And actually, the story's ace.
Mr. White asks, "Is this did this game have Burgess Meredith in it?" Ripper did, right?
Ripper did.
Yes.
Yeah, Ripper had Burgess Meredith in it. Yeah, like, it had an all-star cast, didn't it? Actually quite high-end actors in it.
It's surprising how much money was probably spent on that game for what it turned out to be.
Although there is an article out there, which is fantastic, which is about the production of the game, and it was a mess, as you can imagine.
Yeah,
it was a mess. They had no idea what they were doing, no idea. And it's a miracle that there is anything like a semi-coherent story out there at all.
You know what, lads?
Well,
I think we should
just remember
start
some more games that have decent FMV sequence. Decent FMV.
All right, go on, let us know, and then we can start the podcast.
And with decent games. Mech Commander 2, and Battle Mech Warrior 4. Yeah, Mech Warrior 4.
I don't count them because they're not full FMV games.
Cheesy as hell, but
they're not primarily an FMV game.
That's also very true.
Actually, you probably wouldn't count Realms of the Haunting then either, because it does. Although it has FMV sequences, it's also married to this kind of it's almost like a horror Ultima Underworld style RPG,
right?
First person, very basic looking. So that's the main game, as it were.
Because otherwise you'd say Command and Conquer with Tim Curry would be in that genre, and it's clearly not. That's it. Yeah. The FMV in that game is fucking amazing, but
the original Phantasmagoria isn't bad.
No,
it's all right. It's not good, but it's not awful.
It's Toonstruck as well.
Toonstruck's fun.
It's fun.
Toonstruck's a lot of fun.
It just has a shit ending.
Yes, and it has that moon logic thing, which a lot of the point-and-click adventures have, where you ultimately come to that point where you're just clicking everything on everything.
Yeah, especially in Toonstruck, because and Sam and Max, just because it's so weird and it doesn't make sense, and you just roll with it.
Exactly, the logic is moon logic, isn't it? It's just crazy, so you just let it go.
Yeah.
Anyway, lads, shall we talk about some Transformers?
Yeah, it's the kind of the season, isn't it? So why not?
All right. I'm going to play the podcast music, and then we're going to get into 1986 Transformers. All right. Here come the music.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to Moonbase 2.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Moonbase 2 podcast. My name is Andy, Decade Andy, and I'm joined by the man who's came from the mines of Rurapenthe himself. It's Big Swingin' D. Hello, Big D.
Good evening.
You doing well this evening? You doing fine?
I'm doing okay, Andy. Yourself?
Not too bad. Could be better. Very tired. Very sore from gardening the previous day. There is no Mikey. Mikey sent me a message a few days ago saying that he wouldn't be available. The plan is for him to get somebody who went to TF Nation to do a TF Nation roundup podcast. That was what was going to be the case this week. He couldn't be here, so now it's just me, Big Swingin' D, and another guest who seemed interested in talking about these toys this week. It's Mr. George. Hello, George.
Hello, Andy, man. How are things?
Yeah, not bad. I hear you were at TF Nation as well, weren't you?
I was. Wouldn't miss it, to be honest, at this point. Even though I don't really collect anymore, I would not miss TF Nation.
Were you there for the full weekend, or were you just there for a day?
I was for the full weekend. Yeah, I arrived on the Friday, left on the Sunday morning. Had to leave relatively early on the Sunday morning.
Okay.
For many reasons, but beyond, I was there for most of it. I did do that thing which I often do, where I had like a couple of gin and tonics on the Saturday evening, and then thought, I'll go and have a nap, and then that nap lasted until the next morning.
Oh no!
Yeah, that did happen.
Were you just sprawled on the bed with a bottle of booze in your hand or something?
Oh, I wish. No, it was a case of like I had my 2 gin and tonics, and then that was it. I was gone. I am such a lightweight these days. It's ridiculous.
Oh, well.
Did you wake up with some mysterious Transformers nature and go, where the hell did they come from?
No, that didn't happen either, sadly, but no. I did actually. Say again?
Were you there with Ray?
I did. Yes, I went with Ray and Will Bishop as well. Turned up on the Saturday. Ray, left on the Saturday morning after he'd got all of his bots. Managed to get a really very respectable haul, did Ray, as he always does.
Since he doesn't have an internet presence, I'll ask you.
No, he's got Masterpiece Jetfire, I think it was, which is okay, by the way. He was warned. He was warned about the problems, but he managed to get a decent one, and apparently it's fine. So that. What else did he get? I picked up lots of like little bits and pieces. He got a couple of the Stunticons for the current set, the Legacy. Is it the Legacy?
Legacy, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, he completed that set, so he's got his Menasor now, which is really cool. He picked up the Break the Penguin from
classic
Beast. Beast?
God.
Is it Neo?
Yeah, it's Neo.
Yeah, that was all he needed to complete the Maximals from that line, and he's been looking for it forever. And there was just this, I remember seeing it was just there, complete, just loose on a table, and it was just there we go.
I wonder what version he got. Not that it really matters, but I wonder if it was the Korean version or if it was the Japanese. Again, they're practically the same. It's just they were sold in like 2-packs in Korea. I can't remember who Break was fighting against in this 2-pack though.
Interesting. I don't know, because it was loose, you see, so it could have been either one.
I don't know. Yeah. If chat knows the difference between the Korean release of the Neo figures and the standard Japanese, let us know. I don't think there's any. Either way.
But no, he always has a good
nothing
time.
Tempted you, I'm guessing.
Yeah, actually, I did. I always pick up something, just one thing, as a memento. But it's got to be something special. It's always got to be something that means something to me. And they were doing, the Transmetal 2 Megatron, the Legacy one. That was being sold for 30 quid. So it was like,
obviously, that, didn't they? Yeah, I saw it on the specials, and it was like, oh god damn.
Honestly, it's superb. I mean, it's something else, It is absolutely stunning.
I thought you had it already, oddly enough.
No. I keep, because I'm not really collecting anymore. I keep seeing it for like 50 odd quid and thinking, no. But 30, I'm into that.
And you've had to play with him, I'm guessing, and enjoy.
Oh god, yeah, absolutely. Transformed him a couple of times. It does that wonderful thing that the original toy does, which is it's complex but intuitive. So you don't need the instructions. It's easy to figure out, but it's very satisfying. Everything's very clever about it, the way it transforms, and when it's done in both modes, it is magisterial. It is easily, I mean, for my aesthetic, it's my favorite Megatron.
I always prefer Transmetal 1 personally.
One had roller skates.
Yeah, it does.
Transmetal 2 was more over the top, truly evil. This is where Megatron just went, I'm not playing anymore. Let's go full theatrics, shall we?
I'm basically the devil, That's what they were going for, right? You've got him as a demon, and you've got Tiger Hawk as an angelic figure.
I have to say, both of those two figures are Tiger Hawk and TM2 Megatron. I have both, and they are so lovely to mess around with.
Aren't they great? They're just stunning toys, right? Just absolutely stunning pieces of work. They are releasing a Tiger Hawk in Legacy as well. I
know. So they say. So, whenever that comes out.
Well, I mean, if they've done Megatron, they've got to do him.
Yeah, you would have thought so. It'll be interesting to see what they make out of him. Will they just, because I would imagine they'll have to reuse it in some way, because we'll get to Cryotech at some point, I'm sure.
Oh yes,
and I'm sure we'll get a Razor Claw as well in some form.
Yep.
I hope so. If they do that Razor Claw repaint of Tiger Hawk, I'm having that.
I can't imagine they would. Maybe they wouldn't, because they're not as keen on doing them with the leaders generally.
Yeah,
it would be weird.
I mean, but Hasbro don't seem to have found a black and purple repaint they don't really
it's true.
throw back out onto the market.
I'm just thinking about how often you see I'm just thinking about how often you see these repaints of specifically leaders come out. The leaders don't seem to get a huge amount of repaints outside of the main line, unless it's an obvious character. If it's just like Razorclaw, it's like we know who Razorclaw is, but who the fuck's Razorclaw? Generally, a Transformer fan won't want him, I don't think.
Yeah, he is quite obscure, but it's so good.
It's a great scheme. It was a great figure.
The colors, oh god, black, purple, red. I mean, what more could you want from an evil character?
You got rid of yours. Well, you didn't get rid of him, but
no, I gave him away.
You gave him away. Yeah,
someone who really wanted it. He's in a good place. He's gone to a good home. That's what I care about.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I care about.
Do you think Big D should go next year? I'm trying to bully each time I talk to Big D. I'm trying to bully him to go in two places and go in and see people.
It's such a good environment.
Either next year or 2025.
Excellent. Glad to hear it because it is so good. It's such a nice environment.
I'm starting to think I might do Games Expo 2024 and then do TF Nation 2025. That might be
excellent.
That's
the
not
way
a
I
bad way
do
to go.
things.
No, that's cool.
Mr. White says, go to Manchester, just a one-day event. That's right, there is the mini-con that's going to be happening sometime in next year. Mr. White, I'm sure, will put down the days and whatnot. But so could we tempt you by that one? It's a smaller convention from what I hear, so that might be a little testing bed for you.
There's one slight problem. That's that I live in Wiltshire.
Just get your bicycle.
So it's a little bit of a drive.
Yeah. Just start running. Just start now. A nice brisk jog. You'll make it. I believe in.
Well, I used to have a partner in Manchester, but that was ages ago. So that's not. That would have made it so much more convenient, right?
Yeah, because you're a little bit away from it as well, aren't you, George?
Yeah. I'm in the Midlands. I'm in Tamworth, so maybe I should call him up. I don't know.
Hey, how's it going? Do you mind if I come round Transformer Convention?
Yeah, just crash. For a bit.
Easy. Well, we're here this week again. Like I mentioned, we're going to pick up where we ended last week. We ended last week about 1985, 86, and we're picking up from that spot. So me and Big D have talked about some of these figures on this list, but we'll let George talk about all of them. But we will. Me and Big D will talk about the new ones added to this list, and this is moving from generation, it was the second season of Transformers G1, and we're moving into movie era. So we got Metroplex, we got Hot Rod and Cup and whatnot. But so ones that we've already talked about, George, from previous years gone by, you can throw down your thoughts for Omega Supreme. Omega Supreme. I'll go off with you with Omega Supreme just because it's the first one I've saw.
Oh, I like Omega. I've got a real thing about him. I like trains for a start, and he's a big train set, isn't he? Well, kind of. He's a tank. He's on a track, isn't he?
Yeah.
It makes a little difference. It's on a track. It goes round. It kind of it fits that sort of train set dynamic, doesn't it? I love that. I love that to bits. I love bases. I've got a thing about spaceships as well. Love that. He's both of them together. Yeah. Was he available in the UK?
That's a good question. Supreme. I wouldn't have been alive around that period, so I don't know.
I mean, I was around, but I was so young that I don't think anything was on my radar to any great degree.
I'm trying to think. I think he was limited availability. I do remember seeing toy that he was based off got released separately.
Yes, because he was seconded over, wasn't he, from another toy line?
Yeah.
Mr. White says he was advertised.
Oh, he was advertised, was he?
Apparently.
Interesting. So, Interesting. I mean, I know he featured prominently in the second season of the cartoon. Because he was how they got, like the Autobots got from Earth to Cybertron a lot of the time, wasn't he? He was kind of relegated to being transport.
Yeah, me and Big D talked about that, how he would take them and just run out of energy, and he was just like sidelined for the rest of the show.
That's the funny thing, right? That's the funny thing. Like, he was like surely a super weapon. Like in the cartoon, he was bigger than the Combiners, To end the Decepticon threat, all Optimus had to do was Omega, Decepticons over there, kill.
But Prime wasn't a murderer at that point. He had to get to Michael Bay before he became a murderer.
But it's the way they sidelined him. Like, they made him like really fuel inefficient, didn't they? So like every time he made a trip to the moon or whatever, it was like, oh, I'm tired now and I can't do anything else. I think in one episode he actually exploded, didn't he?
That sounds familiar. I couldn't say
that
which
would not
one.
surprise me.
Yeah,
I always remember it because like it was clear that the story wasn't finished, or there was some other plot line that hadn't been included, because there's no reason in the cartoon episode for him to explode. He just like does, and it's like, oh, okay. Fair enough.
Sometimes you just explode when you do things. At least I did. But maybe he was old. Maybe it was a commentating on old age people. They just explode. Mr. White said the sad thing was his comic debut involved him thrashing all the cons by himself, and then nothing. Oh,
then nothing. Yeah, it kind of disappears from the comic too, doesn't it? He's just like, meh.
That's what happens when you make a super weapon.
He appears occasionally in the background.
Yes, he becomes like a background character, doesn't he? I remember seeing him. Yeah. He gets trashed by Starscream, doesn't he? Like half of them do.
He's part of the Great Purge.
Yeah. We have new toys to sell. Move along.
Was this the Underbase Purge or whatever it was?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one. They also scale him down massively, don't they? Like he is big in the comic, but he's not massive. He's not as massive as he becomes certainly in the cartoon.
I guess
I did always like in his.
Go ahead.
In his comic appearance, that first one, how they depicted his base mode, where they actually had the track properly draped over the landscape. That was actually a really cool visual of,
that's so
of his
cool.
base deployed out the front of the arc. And
that's nice.
It was literally, and it made him look more imposing because the tank was actually on a proper patrol, so to speak, and the rocket looked like a proper emplacement of sorts that was serving a purpose.
I kind of like what they've done with him and like the other Guardian robots that he derives from in like the latter fiction, where they're basically like these legendary protectors of Cybertron and whatnot. I think that's rather cool.
Yeah, IDW have done some quite interesting stuff with things like Omega and his ilk.
Definitely.
It's been really wonderful to see. There's something to be said for having all previous continuities published, so you can then go, well, let's pick this bit and merge these bits and do a bit of twist and see what we can come up with. And you know what? I know that the reboot of IDW stuff got a bit of flack. Because they were telling a much more long form story. Once it got going, all the slow bits did a lot to inform it and really helped to piece things together. And
the problem was it was so slow. It was like your teeth being pulled and your fingers and toenails being pulled all at the same time. I gave up with it because it was just too tedious. Far too tedious. It was so annoying. This is me and Mikey have talked about this numerous times, and it's the issue of getting someone who writes novels to write comics and doesn't understand that you can't write a novel's pacing in a comic book. It doesn't work that way. It's a completely different medium.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Even if it's modern era where people write for the trade format, you still do need to get to the point eventually.
Yeah. Because there's 6 issues of a comic book in a trade, generally speaking. So you can't you can't have
quite punchy, don't you?
You can't have 50 issues or more of a comic to get through your entire story for the most part.
It's a tricky format in that regard. It is really difficult. There's something very refined about the format.
Yeah, it's fast, but not too fast. You got to let a lot of your visuals, I think, do the storytelling.
Absolutely, there's a lot of ambient storytelling, which is really clever. I've always appreciated that about really like good comics.
Yeah, some really good ones have no dialogue in them at all, and you can read them just like a whole comic, and it's there's no words, but you get it. It's like, oh, it's great. Not many do that, though. It's hard.
No, a lot of 2000 AD strips are just phenomenal for that. I mean, they're so good. Oh, yeah. So good at that.
But 2000 AD is just such a unique medium nowadays for the number of good writers who've come out of that book.
Oh, honestly.
Made their mark stateside. And you can see where they got their grounding, because they're always the writers who are able to get their story out without messing around.
Mm-hmm.
They're quite punchy. They get in and out. They give you what you need, and sometimes they just get quite playful as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the consistency.
I've always got a soft spot for. Abnett with his Sinister Dexter work, the Bullet Time, which I still marvel at. I think he's gone back well for that strip a couple of times in his fiction and with some of his American work. And because it's a bloody good conceit he ran with.
Yeah. So. I mean, absolutely stunning stuff. I would always direct people to 2000 AD because it's like a repository of amazing artistry and storytelling. It's just beautiful.
It's a good time period kind of capsule as well for the 80s and 90s, I think, in a way.
Very much
so. Went too far there.
Speaking of time capsules,
we can move over to the triple changes.
Oh, the Autobot triple changes. Yes, by and large, I mean, it's the best of times and the worst of times, isn't it? You've got Sandstorm there, who is fantastic.
Is Sandstorm the best of the three of them?
Oh, yeah. By a country mile.
I don't know. I think Spring is really solid. I think Spring is really solid.
I mean, fine, but his two modes are like...
they're future woo-woo. They're future woo-woo.
They are.
Spring is most sci-fi.
Yeah.
They're pushing
There's something fun about the idea that the car just unfolds into the helicopter.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it works. It does work.
Sci-fi conceit with that.
But Triple Change is pushing it with him.
Sandstorm is probably the most complete of.
He is, and he's like out of. I mean, I would put him up against any of the Triple Changes from like G1. He is so well put together.
I think.
And then you've got Broadside, who is.
Well, we don't. No one talks about Broadside because he's crap.
No. He's a bit naff, isn't
Poor
he?
Broadside.
It's a shame, really. I mean, I like the concept. It's just silly. It doesn't work. Sadly, it just doesn't work. But what I loved about Broadside, he does appear in the cartoon, but like in these rare, strange moments where his scale is all over the place.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the G1 bots. Sometimes he's massive. He's like Omega Supreme sized. He's fighting Devastator, you know? Others, he's the same as all the other bots.
Well, he has the unique cartoon face as well, where it's completely different from the toy, where he has the bright red face and the white outlining for no reason, just new design. Why not?
Yeah, the Marvel comics
also
as well.
For the comics logic, though, because they made him quite consistent height-wise, but then... They gave him a wonderful little snippet when he turned into his aircraft carrier because of the size differential. He had no armor because the hull was paper thin.
Yeah.
He was
and
just
also like
target.
The Marvel comics in particular, just you wouldn't even know it was Broadside unless they told you, because the model they used was nothing like the toy.
I think he probably could have done better if he had a better robot mode. If he had a more solid robot mode, I think a lot more of his flaws, you'd just be like, oh, okay.
You could have forgiven them, right? Yeah. But for the triple changes of this era, the Decepticons have got all the songs, haven't they? They really do.
Yeah, we talked about the Season 2 ones last time, which were Blitzwing and Asteroid Train, who were great. And obviously there are more we'll get onto. But I still think Spring is really good. I tell you why I liked him. He felt like a mask toy in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I liked him. He didn't do a lot to transform into his helicopter mode, but I remember as a kid being fairly satisfied about it. Though I did pull off his, when you get the side parts of the helicopter to drag them down that rail on the side of his leg, every now and again I did pull too hard and pull them off the rail. Luckily they were easy enough to get back in, but it's always a bit of a weird thing. And another odd thing about the design were how the arms kind of worked. That was a strange visual as well.
He had some odd arms.
Yeah.
But equally though, it does help that Spring actually had personality in all the media.
Yes,
they made him a spotlight character in the comics, in the cartoon. He was another
one of Simon Furman's favorites, wasn't he? He really went to town on him. He was the leader of the survivors, of course. I loved his relationship with Karnavac.
Yes, that was a wonderful one.
It was really
PTSD
good, right?
with Impactor not dying, not staying dead was quite wonderfully done.
Really good stuff, right? Really good stuff.
Mm.
One of those unassuming toys, really.
Fair Han Solo.
Yeah. So he's like one of those unassuming toys that got just a lot of characterization in all of the media, and that's continued, of course. I mean, he was a massive character in IDW.
Yeah, he's always been a staple.
Yeah.
I think just because he has that iconic look, he is known very well from the movie and from season 3. It's who wants to use Broadside when you could use Springer?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, Sandstorm was interesting in season 3 as well, of course, because he had that weird Spotlight episode where he wasn't even like an original Autobot as such. He was from another universe, wasn't he? He was from Paradron.
Yeah, the episode famously known for Rodimus and Ultra Magnus being like, "We're going to blow up your world. Get over it."
Yeah.
In fact,
it has that one. It has like the best line from Ultra Magnus where he says something. It is in the planet's core, and he says something like, "I've never seen anything this beautiful in the entire galaxy." Then turns to Sandstorm, like, "All right, give me the bomb."
Yeah, give me the bomb.
And it's like, okay.
Isn't there like another line in that episode, something equated to this, where he goes, who cares about this place? Cybertron's better. It's like, oh.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think it's Rodimus who says that at the end, basically, And it's like, he's just seeing the destruction of his entire planet, It's like, okay. Also, one of those weird episodes where like, Galvatron is oddly competent.
Yeah.
Oddly competent.
It's always a novelty, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really strange. He's on an even keel at that point. He's obviously had his meds properly, evened out at that point.
Cyclones took care of him that day.
Yes, clearly.
The triple changes. I think you didn't really go wrong with these apart from Broadside.
No, they were fun. Solid. I mean, have you ever like had Sandstorm, and have you ever handled him?
Yes, he was one of him and Springer. I had both of them as a kid, so I still have my Sandstorm.
Oh, brilliant!
And the more I'm thinking about it, he is incredibly satisfying to transform into the helicopter mode. There's something really just nice about folding the front the back wheels under the canopy of the helicopter mode. It feels nice. Everything clicks together well. It holds together fantastically. And
I must admit,
there's not really any bad proportions on him, oddly enough, for his era.
No, he's pretty solid, isn't he? In like all modes, all the modes look good. They look distinct from one another. You can't really see too much of the modes on one another.
No.
He's a really clever bot. I didn't get how good he was until it was Ray, actually, because Ray's got a massive collection. He's got more or less all of G1, almost all of everything. To be honest, his bot mode, his bot room is huge. It's ridiculous, and I remember like handling that for the first time and transforming it and thinking, having that moment where it's like, oh wow.
Oh, so you didn't have this as a kid or play with it as a kid either?
No. Okay. This was too late on. This was too early on for me. I was really young at this point. This is 1986. Yeah.
This was 86. Yes. No. They must have redone them for the gold issue boxes. This one must have been done for gold issue.
They did.
I got him.
They did. I think Springer and Sandstorm certainly had re-releasing gold boxes.
I don't think Broadside did. I don't think he did.
I mean, if you're going to reissue them,
all three were still featured in the British comic at that point, so it wouldn't have surprised me if he.
Oh yeah, that's a point actually. And again, Broadside did have some like spotlight stories in the comic, didn't he?
You can't ask me anything comic wise.
He benefited from being one of the.
Yeah, he
benefited from being one of the wreckers that survived and made it into the survivors and later the Earth Force.
That's right. So he had a few of his own interesting little stories.
And actually, he made it right to the end.
He did.
Which is not exactly common for these guys.
No, there was a lot of like mass deactivation, wasn't there, in the comics? Usually when like the new toy lines are coming in.
I mean, these three made it from their first appearance right through to the end without anyone taking them out, which is kind of impressive, to be honest.
It's pretty damn impressive. I mean, most of them get deactivated at least once, don't they?
I think it's fair to say that Furman really had a soft spot for all three of them.
I still feel at some point I should probably pick up a Broadside just to put on the shelf at some point. It's just he's always one of those ones where I don't want to spend a lot of money on him.
No.
Just because of what he is, unfortunately. Ultra Magnus, everybody's favorite kind of upgraded super duper Optimus Prime. Me and Dee talked about Optimus Prime, obviously, in the last episode. I guess we could talk about one. This is mistransformed, I would say. Seems like his arms are further down than they should be.
Yeah, those arms.
Yeah, definitely. Those arms are ratcheting up, don't they?
Yeah,
they really
just a tad. Just a tad. This is the short missile version, because there was another version that had long missiles instead of the short red ones. Right. I can't remember if that was just for reissues, but I remember that was a thing people talked about at one point. I think for an upgrade of Optimus Prime, effectively, the battle armor is competent. It's not very pretty from behind, as he's just very visible, but he's very much a front-facing figure, and if you look at him from the front, pretty solid. Also, this is not the blue-faced Ultra Magnus, which was a thing as well. Does anybody remember blue-faced Ultra Magnus?
No, I don't. I don't remember that one. Yeah. Was that like an alternative version? Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, they didn't have any paint on the face. So it was just blue. I don't know how common that was, but I remember as a kid seeing that and seeing that a few times at conventions. I assume it wasn't just someone rubbing the paint off the front of his face.
Yeah. What I remember most about this figure, about this character, is the mystification, like the mythology that grew up around it in playgrounds and schoolyards and things. Because, well, back then there was no internet or anything, so nobody knew why Ultra Magnus had this white Optimus Prime, as part of him, you know. And it was this whole myth about like where it came from and what it was and all of this kind of thing. And there was lots of like rumors flying around. It was really kind of fun. I mean, some of the latter comics would obviously run with that and actually turn it into part of the character, right?
Yeah.
I mean Dreamwave made it point at the end of their second miniseries, and I'll be honest, it might be the best thing of that entire run, because the way they did it was pitch perfect.
It's pretty good.
For Dreamwave, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I never got to play with an Ultra Magnus. Originally, I remember playing with one randomly going on a holiday, and my mum taking me to one of her friends' homes, and her friend had a box of Transformers from her son who wasn't there. And I remember playing with the Ultra Magnus in there. We're not completely balked and whatnot, but I remember thinking it was strange, like you said, why there was a white Optimus Prime in there. But I don't think I thought too much about it, because I was just a kid. No, like, whatever.
Of course. Yeah. It's so interesting. I mean,
it
Ultra
did mean
Magnus,
you had someone to use for Return of Optimus Prime. You could,
of course,
really
right.
For that.
It was handy for that, yeah. I mean, Ultra Magnus is an odd one, isn't it? Very prominent in the movie, and then kind of sidelined, you know, because it's all about Rodimus, isn't it? Really, after that, the comics did loads with him. In the comics, he was like a principal character, and there was all this stuff about his relationship with Galvatron, and I think in the Marvel comics, he even had like PTSD because of his conflicts with Galvatron. You know, it was really interesting.
He did always have a presence, though, visually. And I think just like his toy was a pretty good visual thing as well for kids to have, if they did have
him. Well, it was so big, wasn't it?
Magnus.
I mean, like...
It was our era's Magnus and the future Galvatron. So it wasn't even the Galvatron, but the Magnus that Galvatron knew.
No, right. It was just this poor innocent guy, right? Who'd never met Galvatron.
Who'd literally just come online as well. He made a point of saying he'd literally just come online as the Autobot super weapon. And it's just like, oh, okay.
And he has to fight this mad creature from like the future that's effectively been created by the devil, you know?
That's a bad way to wake up, that's for sure.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, in Target 2006, he gets quite witty in places, does Magnus? He gives Galvatron some serious sass whilst he's getting the crap kicked out of him. And then as he goes on, the poor sod just gets more and more brutalized by Galvatron over time and just can't deal with it. Literally, he can't deal with it anymore.
Although he does get his own back, doesn't he? They do give him some... It's way later on. It's well later on. But he does get to kick Galvatron once. He does get to beat him once, and it's quite glorious, to be honest. Because it doesn't happen often in that comic.
No, Galvatron really, they didn't shy away from making him the person you don't want to get into any sort of mix with, because he will fuck you up.
Absolutely, and he does, like, hundreds of them. By the end, he's like, he's basically a WMD by the end, isn't he? You know, he's just taking out everyone.
Does anybody have anything else to say on the Ultra Magnus figure? Do you want to move on to another
No,
one?
let's move on. Let's move on. He's fun. Next. I like the fact that he's played by Elliot Ness. That in the movie, that makes me happy.
Yeah, that is quite
Robert Stack himself, you know.
Great voice, as ever. But since we're talking about voices, how about Wreck-Gar?
Yes, Weird Al Yankovic, yeah.
One that I've never owned as well. I've never owned a Wheeljack figure.
Oh, Wreck-Gar. Never owned Wreck-Gar.
See, I had this Wreck-Gar, and he was a nice, fun figure to play with. He's
really interesting, isn't he? Like, he's heavy and weighty and fun, and it's very, very odd, like just strange, and it just works. There's something about him that's very satisfying. Never had him as a kid. Again, this would have been way too early, but I can imagine he's the kind of toy that I can imagine being really pleased with, because everything goes together so well, and he just feels so good in hand.
He had a nice mix of die casting in it, because the plate underneath his head, that forms his shoulders, basically, is just a solid piece of metal.
It is just solid metal, isn't it? Yeah.
And then the way he transforms, there's this, especially when he gets to the back wheel, he's got this unique way of, you basically have to flex it around into the middle of the legs.
Yeah, it's an oddly elaborate.
When you do it, it's just so satisfying. It feels really good to do.
He's an odd transformer for this era.
Yeah. And the figure, there's there are things clearly missing from the cartoon and comic model, so no moustaches or anything. But it's just a nice, chunky, fun figure to play with. And you get the axe, you get a shield, you get his gun. That was a wealth of stuff back in the day.
Absolutely,
and he could use it all. There was no, other than the wheel, there was no parts forming, which was nice. Everything just put together really. It was just really satisfying to mess with.
Yep. I love his. It's hard not to love his appearance in the movie. He's played by Eric Idle, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
Which is kind of cool. And I just love the fact that, like, the movie just establishes that transforming metal life forms just exist in this universe. There's just lots of them out there. There are metal planets, and there are these entities that are just alive and are transforming robots.
It's one of those things that no one really, I don't think a lot of people appreciate about season 3, mainly because it has such a weird up and down kind of animation style. But that's why I liked about season 3, because it was just out there in space doing some interesting things instead of it felt a bit more like writers were doing stories versus the stereotypical, like, oh, now we're toy size on an alien world and there's a cat chasing us. It felt a bit not completely different, but you had Ghost of Starscream and episodes like that, which were kind of interesting, just visually messy. I think that was the issue with season 3. Just it was.
I agree.
Messy.
It may be sentiment. I don't know, because I grew up more with season 3.
That could be true.
I really like season 3 for all of its faults. I really like it. I think even when sometimes when it's bad, it's bad. And when it's bad, it's really, really awful.
Oh yes.
But there are these moments of mad invention and that I really like. And like you were saying, Andy, it's so much more expansive because it's set in like space and multiple worlds, that it's kind of fun and weird and surreal, and I like that.
Like, despite how bad it is, Carnage C Minor is an interesting idea for an episode. They've got some.
Yes,
it's not good, but the idea of a singing planet of people sing and they draw power from that is an interesting concept. Just not executed well.
Yeah,
that's right. It could have worked. It could have worked. It was just executed horribly.
Yeah.
On every level. Like, it's not just that the concept is badly implemented, but the animation is notoriously garbage in that episode. There are obviously bits cut and changed around that don't make any sense, and so on and so forth.
One thing
Can you guys get not so much a secret, but just something that informs my experience with Transformers? I didn't get to watch much of the G1 cartoon when it first came out.
I suppose that makes sense because you were in Hong Kong at the time, right?
Of course, right?
Well, it wasn't even that. It was just because of how it released. Because my school because normally it aired on like Wackaday and stuff. It was a very weird slot on terrestrial TV, and my school was not to the same pattern as the broadcasters who were organising the schedule. So I was normally in school when they were doing these holiday broadcasts. When I was on holiday, they weren't doing any of them. So I missed huge chunks of it. I had to read it in like sticker annuals. And I mean, I think I may have watched maybe half a dozen episodes of season 1. And then odd episodes here and there that I had on video.
Yeah.
Like the Headmasters and Return of Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
But I didn't watch a lot of season 2 and season 3 until the DVD box set back in 2008, I think.
It was weirdly distributed, as you say. Really originally, certainly here in the UK, it was on Wackaday, and it was like broken up. The episodes were broken up into these like 5-10 minute segments. Then you'd have Wackaday skits, and then you'd have adverts, and then you'd have the next part of the Transformers. So episodes would go on for quite a long time, like over a period of days.
I mean, they'd take most of a week just to get through like 1 or 2 episodes, which was just bonkers when you think
really strange. But that would have been where I first encountered it, definitely, because I was watching Wackaday when I was really, really, really just barely born. I was watching Wackaday, so that would have been where the image of the Transformers first seared itself into my mind.
I think I mentioned last time for me was
sorry, I just had to share that.
No, it's fine. It was on Sky for me, so it was never too much of an issue. I can't imagine trying to watch any show in 5-minute chunks. It sounds horrific. It sounds like the worst idea ever.
Oh yeah, it was bad. I mean, it was bad. But of course, being so young, you just don't question it. You're just like, oh well, this is how it is.
Yeah. XL Hedge says in chat, also, where are the blaster nipples for Wreck-Gar? Did he have blaster nipples on the toy?
Oh, he has them. He
has big, very prominent blaster nipples, Yes.
I think the question here is because on the image, I'm guessing it's the quality of the image, but it's quite hard to tell if he does have them in this image.
Yeah, they're not very clear of a picture, but he does have them. He does have them. Distinctive on the toy.
They were there. Yes, definitely.
This is staple. I thought it'd be weird if he didn't. They have to be there.
Yeah, they are part of the shtick, aren't they? Somehow it just all works together.
I mean, honestly, the only thing the toy's missing is the spikes and the mustache.
Yeah, that's about it. Although it's a shame it doesn't have the mustache because it looks good. It does look good. Makes no sense whatsoever, but it's cool.
Everybody got facial hair in season 3.
They didn't they?
Yeah.
What was that about?
Yeah.
Getting older, I guess. Puberty.
Transformers.
Well,
maybe.
Alphatron had a beard, I suppose, but he was really the only outlier.
That's
at that time.
A fair point.
Yeah.
That's a fair point. He did, didn't he?
Yeah, it's odd. Yeah, everybody took after Alphatron at that point and went, yeah, we'll have facial hair too. Got good with it, I will say.
Maybe someone on the G.I. Joe design team moved into their animation team and just went, we have so many great mustaches. Let me show what I can do on a robot.
Go for it. We have the interesting lad known as Skylinks next. He's another one of the motorized boys who could, quote-unquote, walk. An interesting figure.
Yeah.
An interesting
seconded again from another toy line, right?
I don't know if Skylinks was. What toy line was Skylinks from if he wasn't Transformers?
I can't remember, but I'm fairly certain
it was a Tonka toy line.
Yes. Yes, I'm sure to recall that.
Yeah, because I'm sure I saw something about him being one of the last non-Hashtag figures that got imported, and man, did they pick the weirdest mother around.
It's really strange, but I tell you what, I love it. I absolutely love him. I think he's such a good toy. He's so big. and weighty and strange, and he's got like all this play value. So like, the fact he's two monsters that join together to become a bigger monster, and then the shuttle can join together as well.
Yep.
It's brilliant. And the fact that they put him in the Autobots as well, that's weird, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because of his monstrous look,
and rather than
you would have
going
been more surprised, or wouldn't have been surprised if he went for the Decepticons, like you say.
Absolutely right. It would have been a more obvious thing to do to put him in the Decepticons. The only thing that makes me sad about Skylynx is that they very rarely go into any kind of origin for him, like why he is the way he is or anything like that. He just turns up.
Yeah,
he just turns up, and it's like, all right.
Tells everyone how awesome he is, and basically ferries people around even more.
Again, I mean, like in the third season of in the third season of the cartoon, he's kind of highly characterized. He's one of the more distinct figures, and I kind of like that.
Do you think that was just for the basic idea to push the probably more expensive toy at the time?
Oh, almost certainly, yeah. I mean, he features so prominently, like, he is kind of like, he is fulfilling that Omega Supreme role again, isn't he? He becomes transport effectively.
He's not.
He does feature like.
Go ahead.
He does feature like as a character. He does get some spotlight episodes. There's a very good one where he's pitted against Predaking, which is really fun. He features quite prominently in the Return of Optimus Prime, and then, funnily enough, is one of those characters who just disappears for the Rebirth. Just isn't there anymore.
Anyway, he's not a toy to be sold at that point, so they've got other stuff to do.
Right.
Because remember how many characters they introduced in Rebirth? I don't think they've had time for Skylynx, really.
Unfortunately. No, they would not.
I mean, Rebirth is just a series of introduction scenes for most part.
It's a toy catalogue.
Here's these characters.
Yeah, it's a toy catalogue.
And I love it. And I love it aggressively.
Yeah. And he's another one who got quite a bit of spotlight in the comics as well.
Yeah.
Did good 3 or 4 arcs, I think.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of them were just him in some respects.
So when did you two own a Skylynx then? Because I got him when they did the Japanese reissue. That's when I got my first one.
Didn't. Yeah, I got him when I was an adult. It would have been. I don't know what. I think it was still auto assembly at the time, but it was that there was one where the reissue was everywhere. It was everywhere. It was the big toy being sold that year of the convention,
and that's when I got him.
See, I've never had this version. I had the Combiner Wars, and I have the Combiner Wars version, and I'm looking at the Commander class.
I must admit, I want that
right now.
I want that.
It's so good.
That is kind of like the apotheosis of the figure, isn't it? It's so good.
It's what Commander class for me should be.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just does everything really nicely.
Mm-hmm. But I do remember being surprised by the toy, by like just how solid it is and how flexible it all is and how well it stands up. Like it's actually a very, very good piece of work.
The only disappointing thing I'd say about it is Lynx, because he doesn't really, because he's a big brick that walks, he doesn't do a huge amount of transforming. The interesting part of the transformation is the quote-unquote sky part, I suppose, the pterodactyl. Yeah. That's the fun part. Combining them is pretty satisfying as well, but the Lynx on his own, you know, it's fine. It's just a big block.
He's not as good.
No.
Do you remember when they do it in the cartoon? The Lynx part of him features once in Return of Optimus Prime.
Yeah, and there's no difference, right? It's the same character.
It's the same character, it's the same voice, and it's really confusing.
Yes, 100%.
I remember as a kid thinking, what is going on? I couldn't understand it. It was the same voice coming out of him, and I was like, what is this? I have no idea, because it is the only time the Lynx part of him even features.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things where it almost felt like it was, if you say what you said was true, and it was a Tonka figure originally, it feels like a feature that maybe wasn't meant to be featured, but was just left over, like the Diaclone cockpits and stuff. Obviously, they made it into a thing for toy, but clearly they just had no intention of doing it for the show for whatever reason.
Yeah.
XL Hedge says Skylynx was weird. Modern Hasbro would have sold the components as separate characters instead of just one. Ooh, probably true. Probably true. One mind.
What do you mean, like MMC did?
Yes, like MMC did. Yeah. Oof.
Yeah. I almost went for that one before they announced this commander class, and then I'm just like, oh, thank God.
Yeah,
my wallet-proof Cyber Relief.
A minor difference in price, I suppose you could say, right? A minor difference in the price.
Yeah.
I'm doing wrong. The MMC version looks brilliant.
Oh, well, yeah. You'd hope so for the price, though.
For that money, yes.
Oh, yeah. What about cars?
But no, Skylynx, I like him. I really like him. I think he's cool. I like his character, you know.
I was never a fan of the character, but I don't need to hang on that. I always thought he was a prick.
Yeah, he is a prick. He absolutely is. Yeah,
Arrogance
I like about him.
Arrogance was never
that's kind of why I liked him, though. You know,
factor for me. Arrogance is just one of those things that just puts me off characters and people. I'm like, no, I'm done with you. Go on. Not for me. Not for me. We move on to the 3 Autobot cars. We got Blur, Cup, and Hot Rod.
Classic, right?
Hot Rod, I think, is probably the best of the 3 of them. Probably. I'm happy to say that.
Yeah.
I don't like Blur. And I don't know if that's because my Blur is a floppy mess. Because there were no way to lock in his arms, so they just kind of droop in vehicle mode.
That would probably inform your biases, to be fair.
Yeah. He's generally a floppy mess, though. Unfortunately, it's not just yours, Andy. That figure was not great. It was not held together very well.
No,
it's a shame, really.
You think so?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's a shame.
Yeah, but he doesn't.
No,
he doesn't hold together very well.
It needed pegs. It just needed pegs or like a little shelf to place the arms on top of just to hold them for the vehicle mode. They could be a floppy mess in robot mode. Who cares? But he's meant to have a very nice streamlined form for that vehicle. And if those things droop on the ground, it's like, oh, that's a shame.
Yeah. But doesn't really work, does it?
Not really. And he's got a really big fat head as well, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know?
And cut. Sadly, there's a sci-fi pickup truck which just ain't sexy.
True, but it is. He is. I think he's fairly accurate.
And given my avatar of choice, that hurts to say.
No. I mean, you're quite right. But compared to Blur, I think he's much better. I think he's probably more accurate as well. You know, he looks like he should. I think the worst thing about him is probably his like shoulder placement. Needs to be a bit higher up on the body. Because it just looks like they're kind of sticking out of like your abdomen rather than where your shoulders would be. But apart from that, I think, like you say, he's not sexy. It's just, but, what were you going to say, George? Sorry.
It's just the interest. These guys, I mean, like, the quality of the toys aside, these guys are just iconic, aren't they? I mean, like the characters have gone on to become like legacy characters, right? I mean, Hot Rod, obviously. I mean, come on, you can't really do Transformers without doing Hot Rod these days. Blur has had loads of new iterations, many of which are friggin' awesome. His animated version is just phenomenal, amazing, absolutely phenomenal. And Cup has been like a really excellent character in a lot of the material, a lot of the media. He's had some brilliant moments, particularly in the IDW comics.
He makes a better old guy than I think Ironhide did. Ironhide's a very specific old dude. He's the old dude cowboy. Well, Cup's the old dude who is kind of like your granddad, who you want advice from all the time.
Cup is Gunnery Sergeant Hartman. That's kind of how I've always thought of him, you know?
Quite right. I 100% agree.
Well, I did always like the retcon that Cup and Ironhide knew each other and have a small little rivalry as these old crusty soldiers who get on and, you know, every few centuries meet up and go, any new stories? Sure.
I thought he's Colonel Hunter Gathers from the Venture Brothers.
We have a
I could definitely hear him with that voice.
Message from Jay Geddes saying, I would love an MP Skylynx. What do you think of an MP Skylynx, guys? That would be huge.
It would be huge, and I just don't like Masterpiece line. I'm not a fan. It's not my thing. I kind of appreciate, you know, for those who like it, it's great, but I am not a fan of the Masterpiece line.
I mean, I think me and Mikey have
I honestly can't see them
Go on.
I can't see them doing anything that the Commander class figure hasn't done already, and at a better price point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what the things that they could improve are like neck articulation, I suppose. The tail could be a bit nicer. Like there could be more joints to make it a lot more posable. But yeah, I think Skylinks is quite a hard one to. They could make him into a masterpiece. I think they just overcomplicated just for the sake of overcomplicating it, and that would maybe make it a bit on the fragile side. Like, unfortunately, quite a few of the masterpieces are still quite delicate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Has Ray had any problems?
I've never like.
I mean, if I can coax him to come on to talk to you about the problems he's had with the masterpiece line, it'll be a long episode.
Has he had the rail bots?
And very passionate episode.
I bet. I mean, me and Mikey know
he does. I mean,
about them, but
he likes the masterpiece line, but he likes it more in theory than in actual practice. You know?
Yeah.
Because they're just. By and large, they're just not good. No. Like the quality of them is just not that great, unfortunately. Yeah. There are exceptions. Some of them are really good. The vast majority are not. And he's had a few that have been broken in box and that have just broken like the first time he's got them out.
I've heard there are some horror stories out there.
It's
I've got
definitely
MP1.
Not for me.
That's kind of... That was enough for me. MP1 Convoy, the first one.
Yeah.
The others, the way the line went, just increasing price, and it's the fact that if you bought,
I was put off almost immediately.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I bought the Megatron, the original Megatron, Masterpiece Megatron, and it's so flimsy. It's so and it's just not fun. It's like it's not fun.
Wow.
I don't see the point, you know. It's not fun to play with. So what's the point of it?
That's how I felt about Masterpiece for the longest time. I think MP1 was fairly fun. I think the Starscream was okay, and then like you say, Megatron became became way too fiddly. And I got alternators around the same time period, and I think I was like, okay, that's enough. They're just not for me. If I'm gonna get something more complex, it's gonna be a third-party figure, which can go all out for its quality control, and most of the time, depending on the third party company, they can be complex but competent, is how I would describe them.
Yes,
for the most part.
Yeah.
That's it. Also, I mean, like that Megatron is just also completely counterintuitive. It's not complex in that very clever way that like a lot of Beast Wars figures are, for example, where they're complex, but you can figure them out, and that's the fun, right? That's the fun. That Megatron is just elaborate for the sake of being elaborate, and it's like it's not fun to transform. You do it once, and that's enough. Then you don't want anything else to do with it. It's like,
you know what was better than that Masterpiece Megatron? Nerf Gun Megatron. Nerf Gun Megatron is the best Megatron. I don't even mean that as a joke.
I'm looking at my version right now.
Yeah, he's such a good toy.
He is good.
Really
I love how the shell becomes a cape. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
No, he is good. He is a good piece of work.
It's just a damn shame that we'll never get another one. We'll never get another one because he's never allowed to be a gun again. Even a Nerf gun. I'd like there to be like a redo of Nerf Gun Megatron. Just make it Silly Gun, whatever. I don't care. But I'd like that. And I don't think we're ever going to get Silly Gun Shockwave either, really, again.
I don't think you are. No, it's good. It's unless they make it really sci-fi, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to respect how the Siege Shockwave. They basically turned him upside down and said, "He's a submarine." No, really. That was Don't ask questions. He's a sub.
It was kind of clever, wasn't it? Like, so basically, they know. It's almost like an in-joke, isn't it? Like they know the fans know what it is, right? It's a space gun mode, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Nah, I don't know what you're talking about.
And it's flipping awesome. That Shockwave's great.
They did exactly the same with Six Shot, didn't they?
Yes, they did for the Times Return line. Yeah,
they said, it's the gun, but it's upside down. Oh, it's a submarine. I said, fair enough.
I think they could get away with it with Six Shot as well, just because he looked so strange.
Yeah, he's so sci-fi, right? He's so silly. Yeah.
Jay Geddes says the point.
Megatron's a harder sell.
That is the point. Masterpiece is not meant to be played Takara and third party. The point is he wrote it again. Okay, that is the point. Masterpiece is not meant to be played with Takara and third party. So yeah, I can understand what you're saying. They're not meant to be quote unquote played with, but there's a difference between something that you can handle and there's no fear of it breaking, and then there's Masterpiece toys.
I mean, when I say play with, I mean euphemistically. I'm not talking about like pew pew bow bang bang. I'm talking about just manipulating the damn thing.
Yeah.
You can't actually do it with that Megatron, and because A, it will break. B, it's too elaborate. Bits of it flop all over the place and actively just fall off. And that makes it the core satisfaction of these toys, which is essentially what they are, whether they're Masterpiece or not, is gone. It's just, I don't see the point, especially when you've got like £100+ price tag for the thing,
That's
exactly. For the price point they're asking, it shouldn't be something that you're not supposed to do, play with the damn figure.
Right.
It's like, I'm sorry, if you're asking me that much money for that figure, I'm going to play the fuck with him.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I expect
it's really interesting.
On me.
It's really interesting when you've got comparisons, like direct comparisons with figures that have been released, say, in the Legacy line or the Kingdom line, and then their Masterpiece equivalents. Like, I don't understand why you would get... I mean, and don't get me wrong, this is actually one of the better Masterpiece figures. The Masterpiece Beast Wars Megatron is actually not bad. But the Legacy one, the Kingdom one, rather, is infinitely superior. It's just infinitely superior. It's simpler. It's easier to handle. It transforms just in a much more satisfying way. It's a bizarre thing, to be honest.
I'd say the difference between those two are, one looks like the version that you want, while the Kingdom one, I'd say, doesn't. The Kingdom one is a stylized, more quote unquote realistic T-Rex, and if you wanted the CGI model, you'd go for the I find it hard to recommend going for the Masterpiece one, because I'm pretty sure I remember people saying that the thigh joint broke, or like it was the groin, wasn't it? The first releases of those Masterpiece Megatrons, all of their groins kept exploding, which is not good. So
whereas the Kingdom one is absolutely solid. I mean, you can literally, it's that one of those toys that has that really rubbery plastic, so you can chuck it around and it will be fine. It's a great piece of work.
My only concern with that is how long that rubber on Kingdom will last. I don't know. It might be fine.
Yes,
it might be fine. Or it might be like in 20 years' time, you touch it and it feels slimy and sticky. I don't know.
That's a possibility. That's a possibility. But at the moment, it feels good.
Equally, Earthrise, Optimus Prime, Kingdom, Rodimus, those easy Masterpiece level engineering, but in a package that you don't. That's just so playable. I mean, they're both just
a mass-produced toy, right?
I mean, if you want good complexity but like sturdy quality, New Age do legend quote unquote scaled figures. But they are not fragile, but they are very fiddly and complex. But I'm not, like, when I'm handling my Toxitron, I'm not scared of him exploding into pieces. And I don't think I've heard of them dying. I mean, it's unfortunately specifically a Masterpiece thing at the moment. Like, there are so many people that have had issues with the delicacy of the figures that they have. That's the issue I have with Masterpiece in itself. It can be too complex sometimes, and it's how durable they are, especially compared to the competitors, which are third-party toys, which, again, depending on the company, can be a lot more durable. That's my point on it.
Also, I've got a fair few Iron Factory figures, and if a third-party Legend scale figure can be more durable, more posable, less fragile, and just more fun for a price point of let's be honest, most of those sorts of Legends scale third-party figures are cheaper than almost all Masterpiece scale figures. If that scale of figure is better than the Masterpiece figures that you get officially, that forces you to ask some questions of, is it worth indulging the Masterpiece experience at that point? Because it's just
absolutely.
Am I doing this just for the collection now, or is it actually So
it's fine because the Masterpiece line is not going to die because the three of us don't like it.
Oh no, it's
well, four of us because Mikey's
popular.
included.
I mean,
and if people enjoy it, that's
it's
perfectly fine as well.
Popular,
There's nothing. Yeah. And I always
I get it,
what they come up next for Masterpiece, even if
it's likewise. It's
you look and go,
there are good. There are good toys in the Masterpiece line. It just seems to be like the quality is so variable in it. Some of them are really, really good, as you'd expect from a line called Masterpiece, and some of them are just not.
They are a lot better than a company called CM's Corpse that did Brave figures and a lot of other figures. They did a line from Gaogaiga. A lot of those figures were notoriously brittle. And they would, for a heavily combining figure series, they were notorious for just like dying in your hand.
Oh dear.
Yeah, just snapping.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Not good.
Jay continued with, right, you're supposed to transform it into mode you want to display it in, pose it, and just leave it on the shelf. It's meant to be a display, please. Yeah.
Is it? Because it's a toy. It does transform. It's
I guess it depends what you're getting the toys for. But I would say if you're going to do that, get a statue instead in a way.
Yeah, a statue. Yeah.
But I kind of get it as well.
Statue, absolutely.
You want the ability to pose it into different things as well. I get that, but if it's one of those things where you put it in one pose and you put it on the shelf, and you know that if you try and fiddle with it, it has the potential that it could break. I think that is an issue. That's not something I would want to spend my money on, at least.
And I've also heard so many accounts of people doing it once. Transforming them or manipulating them once and bits breaking off, or getting them out of the box and bits breaking off.
I was going to mention you said Ray did that, where it just came broken in box.
Actually, it's a couple of things. That Masterpiece figures have come out of the box broken, and he's had to either send them back or get in touch with the companies, the distributors or whatever, which is a bit of a ball ache, to be honest, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing, the Masterpiece line, because I do think that they were better, apart from the third Megatron, number 3 Megatron. They did get better after the Megatron, but I think they've been degrading over the years recently, unfortunately, at least in my opinion. Well, lads, how about we talk about one of the big boys of this era, Metroplex. This was the introduction of Metroplex, the guy to replace Omega Supreme, who's almost a city, almost if you squint really hard.
Yeah. Really, he's a hunk of chunk of bot.
Yeah, I will say that the way they've got him laid out in city mode is the best way to have him displayed. The box where he originally in the box or the instructions, they have the legs just splayed apart like he's doing the splits, and that's just a mess visually. It doesn't look like anything. This looks like at least the mini bots are in some sort of storage bay, so that's good at least. But generally speaking, Metroplex has one cool robot mode. I think that works. One okay battle station mode kind of thing. 6-gun, who is a really interesting idea of what do you do with a load of accessory parts. It might not be solid, but it's a great interesting idea. And Scamper, who's fantastic. Scamper's great. I really like Scamper. He's a really fun, tiny little figure. What do you guys think of Metroplex?
Well, by the time I was into Transformers, I was already aware of Fort Max and Scorponok and whatnot. So when I learned about Metroplex, I was already aware of these guys who were eminently superior, like as designs, as cities, as this guy. I liked him in the cartoon. I liked how he appeared in the cartoon and the comics. The toy is a bit dinky for a city. And I hate, he does this thing I really hate where he's got so many bits that like can get lost and that are essential to the robot mode. Missiles. And it's like, I imagine like as a kid, trying to transport him to a friend's or to your grandma's or something, and bits like getting lost in the taxi or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And this thing is a nightmare. This thing is a nightmare. I don't know how kids played with this thing.
Yeah,
I mean, as a first city former, he's fun, and the proof of concept, he's pretty nifty.
I think.
Yeah, I mean, he looks
Scamper's
good.
awesome.
There's an idea.
There's loads of cool gimmicks,
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I break Metroplex down. He's got a lot of interesting ideas. I just don't think any of them really come together desperately well. Like, he's got the launch bay boob, which is, again, an interesting idea. I just don't think it works very well as a concept.
Oh, but I mean, no,
it's arguable as to whether they did it any better with the Generations version, which I quite like, but
no,
but it doesn't really turn into anything, does it? Let's be honest, it doesn't. It doesn't turn into anything. It's a bot mode, isn't it?
You just need a few more bits to be better.
I say the modern one's worse.
What I've always found funny about. I would agree. I think this one's got more play value than the modern one.
It's got better proportions as well. This one has far better proportions. It looks nicer. It's way cheaper, even on the secondary market. I don't know now, but originally this reissue or the original one, it was much cheaper than when what was it, Generations? I think you said it was, right? It came out because that was like 120, I think, at the time, which was incredibly expensive. Wow. It was expensive when it came out.
Yeah, that is expensive. I mean, I've always liked the idea of the city formers, and what I remember, I've always found difficult they've always had trouble with them in the fiction because they are like the end, aren't they? These are the biggest, most powerful bots. So how do you make them work in the fiction? In the cartoon, they just ignore them largely. Apart from in the episodes where they feature, where it's their time, where it's like Metroplex versus Trypticon, great, you get the big smackdowns. After that, they don't do anything. No, they literally do nothing because they can't do anything with them. They're too big, they're too powerful.
They had a fun idea back in the, I think it's the Space Pirates arc of British comic, where Metroplex wasn't actually the city. He was actually the part.
He was the core of the city, wasn't he?
Yeah. Because they had a great sequence where he literally punches his way out of the city and starts stomping on Quintessons, which is
that makes more sense, doesn't it?
Great fun. Yeah,
I kind of get that. IDW did something wonderful with them,
yeah.
Oh yeah, their take on the C-bots was, and the whole
where they're basically just like ancient legendary Transformers from like the dawn of prehistory. I like that. That makes sense.
Well, the way they linked them to the original Primes as well, gave each of the Primes their own Titan, and which in a lot of ways mirrored them. And
makes perfect sense. Really cool.
Yeah, brilliant stuff.
I love all that stuff. What I love about like the movie and the comics is they're just there. And they're like Trypticon, the Constructicons just build him.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, they're fine. Yeah. Okay. They just build him in like the first season, I think it's in like the first episode, isn't it? It's in the 5 Faces of Darkness of the first episode of season 3. Right, it's just like, oh yeah, we just built him.
Well, they build Megatron sometimes, but not all the time. And Crystal City.
But not all the time.
And Destroyer. I don't. Constructicons are very good and also really shit sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Inconsistent Constructicons. What did you think of the 3 extra guys that he came with? One, the tank that turned into a tower, Scamper, the little black car, who was a drone, I guess, and Six Gun. What do you think of Six Gun, actually?
Six Gun's kind of cool.
Brilliant concept.
Yeah, conceptually excellent.
Taking a tower and just all the guns and just bolting them together.
Yeah.
Yep, like that. Yeah. Like that a lot.
He's more fun than he has any right to be.
I would say the idea of him is pretty fun. I don't think he's very fun in hand because he doesn't feel desperately secure. He also feels kind of like if I picked him up and shook him, if I remember, I don't know if it's... Yeah, and I don't know if that's because of the age of mine or just the engineering. I think it's the engineering, to be honest.
But I think it's the engineering. That would have happened in the 1980s. Yeah. Let's be honest. That would have happened in the 1980s.
It. Six Gun they nailed with the Siege version.
I should hope so.
A nice figure.
He's very good. Yeah, he's very good. He is very good. And it has that wonderful little modular thing going on, doesn't it, where you can pull him apart and do stuff with him, make him into other things, which is kind of fun.
It's a nice playset.
Metroplex is a really nice playset. I can understand getting really excited about this if you got the box like for Christmas or for a birthday or whatever. But I can also see like the horror and disappointment as bits would go missing and bits would break, and then there's also that thing of like it's kind of static, isn't it? There's not a great deal you can do with it.
I mean, how does that change from different G1 toys? Did you say, George?
Well, I mean, like most of the other bases have got a more mobile mode, haven't they? They've got like, a dinosaur mode or a scorpion mode or a whatever mode. Mind you, that's only two of the Decepticons, isn't it? Yeah, he does. He does. And that is more fun, I think. That is quite a fun mode. It's weird. And it's a bit half-hearted, but it's still, it's kind of ludicrous, and I kind of like that, if I'm perfectly honest.
The idea of a city thrown up into a battle station that rolls off is just
it's kind of fun.
Bonkers with Transformers does do quite well sometimes.
Again, it might be my bias.
I love
I just like Triptychon better. I just like Triptychon better.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It is. No, I think it is.
Is it me and my Decepticon bias and the fact that he's a dinosaur and I like that too, or is he just a better toy?
You're not.
I would say
better toy. He had better personality in the comics.
Yeah,
I would say
because he was quite erudite in the comics and just a smart ass, which was great.
I think Metroplex is probably better as a robot than Triptychon is as a dinosaur. Just on the basis that I think Triptychon was not hampered, but he had to give a lot of his playability to his action feature. Which could add or take away depending on how much you enjoy that feature. But I think that limits him in some way, and that isn't an issue with Metroplex. In terms of battle station modes, they're probably about equal, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I think city modes, Triptychon doesn't look like he's being a city, but he looks more intimidating as a fortress, which I think I like.
Yeah, he looks more alien.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I don't know. I think Metroplex might be quote unquote more playable, but I think I still like Triptychon more just because he's got a better silhouette.
I get that.
He does have an electronic feature for better and or for worse, so that that's up in the air. And I like the base mode a lot better. Yeah. The Fortress battle mode, why which I don't care.
It's just funny. Giant robot dinosaur.
Yeah, and that's fun.
Yeah, that is fun.
Yeah,
I wish they kept his original character bio in the cartoon, though. I mean, in the cartoon, they do that classic thing. Oh, he's a dinosaur, so he's not very clever, Whereas he's a bio, he's actually one of the most intelligent Decepticons,
Oh.
Yeah. Did you guys ever watch Cyberverse Adventures? The last season of that had Triptychon, and they did erudite. Yeah, because he leads the mercenaries.
Oh, that's interesting. Was he like? Because I know in the original bio, he's a complete nihilist, isn't he? Like he just doesn't care. Well, he's not interested in the war.
Well, the great bit. Well, what they do is it's where they introduce that series' version of the other Dinobots, as having been inspired by Grimlock on their home planet, which was destroyed by Triptychon's mercenaries.
Right. Okay.
You have a scene where the mercenaries are Sound Blaster and Glitch and a few others, basically repaints of the existing character models for cheapness.
Mm-hmm.
But you have a great bit where Triptychon leaves the ship to come because they've asked for some assistance. And Grimlock has to double take because Triptychon basically starts spouting how he offers his men a wonderful benefits package and full healthcare. It's just the delivery is perfect for Triptychon.
Brilliant.
It's just great.
I remember he did feature in like one of the Dreamwave comics, and he did have this very dry, like sardonic sense of humor. He was always talking like the way his dialogue was written. It was like he was sighing all the time. It was like, must I, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Have you gone back and reread those comics,
Quite nicely done in
George?
IDW as well.
No, I haven't read them for many years.
Mikey informs me that not right now, but he's talked about it in the past when he's listened to people kind of go back. You might not enjoy it as much as you remember, so it's maybe better to.
No, I understand they're not. And, there are moments that are good. There are moments that are okay. They're one of the. I mean, it's weird. The Dreamwave comics, like conceptually, I liked what they were trying to do.
Agreed.
You know, like unify everything, give everything like a mythological in-universe explanation. I liked all that, but in practice, it was massively problematic at times.
Messy.
Yeah, messy's a good word. Messy's a good word.
Not helped by the Lee brothers and their shenanigans.
No.
Oh, well. No. What a time.
Which is a shame. But at least it proved the franchise had legs. So IDW
absolutely.
Snap it away from them.
What do we think about Rodimus Prime then? G1 Rodimus Prime. We talked about how much we liked Hot Rod. Hot Rod's a great toy. Rodimus has to be a great one, right? Because he's the upgraded form.
Rodimus sucks.
Yeah.
Infamously. Yeah. Rodimus. Have you ever handled this toy?
Never. I've only seen pictures of him. I've never touched the toy.
Honestly, it's crap. It is so bad. I'm looking at this toy catalogue now, and barring the likes of Broadside, there isn't much on here that's worse than him. He's a terrible toy.
He does feel like he kind of goes into the same area as Broadside. He doesn't do much. He's a brick that just kind of stands up for the most part.
Yep.
I guess Broadside can do more. Yeah. He has more playability than Rodimus Prime.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah. He does have
bot, the Rodimus Prime bot is a statue.
Yeah.
The arms move up and down, and that's it. That is it, barring the transformation stuff. It's flimsy as hell, badly held together. That backplate comes off all the time.
Is it pegged in?
It's just like a very flimsy little peg. It's made of flimsy, awful plastic. It is a bad toy, that one. The Winnebago mode, like stylistically, I actually like the look of it. I like the way it looks.
Yeah, they've recreated it quite well from screen to toy. It looks solid, but then
absolutely
the actual opening canopy thing mode, I guess they were trying to go for the Optimus Prime gun station thing. It's just nowhere near as good. Nowhere near as good.
It's just so limited, and for a leader figure as well, for a character who's so prominent, and sold so heavily in the film and in like the cartoon series that comes after, they really did him dirty. To be honest, this is a terrible piece of work.
Stand him up to Ultra Magnus, and you can just see the massive difference in quality between the two of them.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
Magnus
he was only a little taller than Hot Rod, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah.
The actual toys. There wasn't much height difference, and
not much.
Tiny compared to Magnus.
And Hot Rod's a better toy.
Massively.
Hot Rod's just a better toy.
And it's kind of a shame because these were some of really the first toys that Hasbro designed and Takara designed themselves specifically as Transformers, not as anything else. So it kind of says a lot that Roddy falls next to the figures that were still repaints of existing figures.
He features very prominently on a lot of people's lists of worst Transformers, this guy.
I mean, it's fair. It's fair to say that.
Yeah, it is. I mean, having handled it, it's bad. I mean, it is really bad. It's like, I don't see how kids could play with it because it has nothing to anchor onto. It's just boring. It's a really dull toy. You can't recreate any of the scenes because of the size difference between him and Galvatron.
Two Rodimus Primes. There's been two Rodimus Prime toys, including this one.
You mean throughout
this
the
one
ages?
And the Kingdom version? And the Kingdom version?
There's been a few, hasn't there?
Titanium?
There's been more than two.
They've had characters they've called.
Yeah, there's been a few Rodimus Prime toys, and they're all better than this.
Was there a Titanium?
They're all better than this.
Yeah, there was a Titanium, which was probably as bad as this. It was probably better than some of the Titaniums, but it was still crap because it's titanium.
Because it's titanium.
Here's a question: what do you think transforms more in a more interesting way, Rodimus Prime or any of the mini bots?
Oh, the mini bots. Oh, by a
Of a
country
mini-bots.
mile. This thing doesn't really. It's just so simplistic. The original Hot Rod transforms more elaborately and more interestingly than this thing.
I should have phrased it as: are the mini bots comparable complexity-wise, or is this even more simplistic than the mini bots? Because mini bots are simple.
This is pretty simplistic. It's probably not as simple as a mini bot, but it's not far off.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And for a figure of its scale and its price point and whatnot, it's pretty inexcusable.
XL Hedge says, compare the Rodimus toy to Galvatron, and you have to wonder
the
how he ever
worst
won against
and the
Galvatron in the T-Rex with his T-Rex arms, which is a fair point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the other thing. Like, you can't do it. Obviously, as a kid, what you're going to be wanting to do is recreating stuff from the cartoons and the movie and whatnot. There is no way, except with a hell of a lot of imagination, you can do that. Because this guy's titchy compared to Galvatron.
Do you remember how he fares up size-wise? Where's about he comes up to? If you remember.
Oh, I can't remember, but it's not. It's like even like the scale of him is wrong. He doesn't feel like he's part. He even feels like not even part of the same toy line. The quality of the Galvatron toy is just so much higher than this thing.
Well, I mean, Galvatron's comparable in size to Magnus because they were pitched as the new leaders. That's the whole tagline. I've got a feeling that Rodimus suffered from the fact that his arc in the film.
Mm-hmm.
No one knew that until the film came out. And
That's
I don't think
the
figure was even revealed until after the film. Whereas Ultra Magnus and Galvatron were known way in advance to fans and media.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a feeling they just didn't put much effort into Roddy.
It shows.
But they
really
didn't
shows.
give it. Which, given he was, their main character for season 3, effectively, really is not a good look.
It's not. It's a shame because I'm one of the very few who actually likes Rodimus better as a character than Optimus, certainly from like G1, because I think he's got more tension. I think he's got more friction. It makes him more interesting. It's just the toy is so bad.
Yeah.
It's one of those toys where, as a kid, you're not that discerning. If it's a new toy, it's a new toy, and it's great, right? I know, as a kid, I'd have been pissed off with this toy. I know I would.
Yeah, I get that.
Mr. White says, I'd say Hot Rod toy looked more heroic than Rodimus, given they just copied Sideswipe's transformation chassis for Hot Rod. They should have just used Prime as the basis for Rodimus. G1 Rodimus toys' eyes are level with Galvatron's toys' abs. Oh my god. He is small then.
He is tiny, he is. Yeah. He's really, really titchy, this guy.
What abs?
For Galvatron.
What abs are we stuck looking at? Yeah, he's got some ab game going on there.
Yeah, he's only got 4, but better than none.
Unicron likes his abs.
Yeah, definitely. He does.
Unicron had to have 6. Galvatron only was allowed 4 at the time.
That's right, yes.
How about we talk about the first of the Scramble City combiners?
Yeah, let's go for something
bots,
fun.
The most boring of the combiners, I think, is universally said.
Let's go for the boring ones first, shall we? I do have a soft spot for them because I had some of these and I remember having a lot of fun with them as a kid. They're very flimsy. I do remember having Firefly and his wings breaking off at one point.
I never had that, thankfully. But yeah, I think the issue with what was his name? Slingshot. That was the one with the orange face, right? And he was primarily white. Yeah,
that's the one.
I always disliked his arms because, like you say, they were very thin. I think they were probably the most flimsy of all the aerial bots at the time. But I did like all the jet modes. I only had 2 of them, plus a neighbor's broken silver bolt.
There were some good jets.
And when I say broken, I mean he didn't have one of his legs.
That's the thing. Silverbolt was really flimsy, and he would break if you looked at him.
Yeah.
I do have a soft spot for the aerial bots
as well.
Wow,
you got 4 fighter jets, and then
a commercial airliner. Yeah, it's like a Concorde. They
couldn't have picked any other military aircraft going. They had to pick Concorde, which I get. It's Concorde. It was the fastest jet in the world. Fine. But come on, guys. You could have gone for a Blackbird.
It's a war Concorde.
A war Concorde. Yeah. I like the idea. I very much like the idea.
But I think... how do you think it is for the very first, Scramble City Combiner that kind of came out? Do you think it was... Overall, would you agree that was probably the most boring of them because they were jets?
Definitely.
Is it the jets, or do you think it's the color scheme? What do you think makes them boring to you?
I don't think it's necessarily the jets. I think it's just the fact that they are, fundamentally, they're kind of the same toy. They all transform the same. There's not a great deal
and even among Scramble City, where there's a lot of shared engineering, it sticks out with these 4 jets that they all transform exactly the same way, pretty much.
Yeah, you compare them to their counterparts, which are the Stunticons, and they've got a lot of shared parts and designs too, but they are so much more distinct.
Yeah.
You compare Silverbolt to Motormaster as the leader figure. Motormaster's just brilliant, right? Motormaster's a great toy.
And he won't fall apart here, which is a boon.
Yeah. No, he's a good, solid piece of work.
The Stunticons have those blasters they can stick in the back of each one that's all unique and different. And
makes them fun.
Don't have anything like that. You can't even use their guns in jet mode. And that's the other weird thing about him.
So you've got to have a little baggie with them, with all the bits.
Yeah, and they couldn't. They didn't even hold their guns. They had that weird clip system that went over their arms.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
The guns went over their arms. Right. Really strange. And really odd.
And that was just I don't think any of the other Scramble City combiners used that same approach. Even Groove pegged in and blades pegged into the sides of their arms.
That's right.
Their guns. I think Blastoff actually did have a post in his hand because he was a bit chunkier.
He did.
Yeah.
He did. And everyone else had posts so they could hold their guns, and these 4 just didn't.
Yeah, it may be my bias, but I do think the Decepticons from this era have got all the songs again.
Yeah, they're certainly the more interesting of the Scramble City combiners, I would say.
Just thematically, right?
I had both these teams, but always was more Protectobots over the aerial bots on the
Definitely.
I mean, not helped either by the fact that the 4 outside of Silverbot, the other 4 aerial bots were all assholes to him.
They often were. Yeah, it's true.
The idea that Prime's logic was, I'll make this guy the leader because he's scared of flying, so it'll help him focus. It's like, that doesn't work that way.
It's tough love. It's tough love.
I will say one thing for the aerial bots, though. At least they actually had an origin, in the cartoon. It wasn't like the Protectobots where it's like, it's season 2. The Protectobots are here. All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
I always forget the Protectobots are in season 2.
They are, They are around. They are around.
Understandable.
Yeah. Often turning up to put out fires and things like that,
it's what they're there for, I suppose. XL Hedge says, I never understand why people want reissues of the Scramble City combiners, as infamous as they are for breaking.
It's a fair point. They are very breakable, these guys. They're very breakable, these guys. And again, the Autobot ones are a bit flimsier than the Decepticon ones for some reason. You look at Onslaught. Yeah. He's an absolute beast. He is. He's really solid. Yeah. He's really, really solid compared to, say, Silverbolt, and even Hotspot, who again is a bit more solid than Silverbolt.
I think Silverbolt is definitely.
I remember my Hotspot had a few issues with.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, Hotspot's issue is more where some things tabbed into him that they had a tendency to come away after a while, and the die cast on his folding chest plate could stop staying in one place after a while as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, you did mention them, so the Protectobots.
He had a moving head.
Yeah.
That's novel.
The Protectobots, I think we can all agree, are probably a nice upgrade to
from
what the
aerial
bots are.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, just color-wise, I mean, they're just much more striking, aren't they? There's much more going on there. Like that blue fire engine for Hotspot. That's kind of cool. That's fun.
Ever see a blue fire engine ever?
No.
No.
I think it was more of a military or aviation thing, to be fair.
Is it?
Right,
Is that what that
right.
is?
I think he's supposed to be an aviation fire truck.
Spooky
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah.
Okay. 'Cause I always thought it was strange as a kid. I
But,
thought he was a great toy. He's a fantastic little leader, especially again
I remember having
compared to
him.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember having him and having
Yeah.
loads of fun with him.
And-
He's also got lots of modes, hasn't he?
Yes, he's got a base mode.
He's
got
got
his
a base
fire truck,
mode.
most
He's
of
got
the
fire
bits.
truck.
Mhm.
He's got like you can attach the bits to the fire truck to make like a battle version, which is kind of fun, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. He had those little manipulator arms that you could attach to the base mode, making
Yes.
a hair bay, which was
that's right.
very nifty
Yeah.
at the time. Very fiddly, but they were kind of cool.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. There's a lot of play
His
value
head,
in
how
how
it was
it's
in
got.
the combiner face being part of the fire ladder assembly. That was
Yeah, rather than being like an extra bit that you slotted on. Yeah, all integrated. That's fun.
Yeah,
I like that.
being able to actually turn a head was always a unique ability in any G1 figure, to be honest.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. Added play value, right? I mean, the individual protector bots, they're more distinct. They are problematic in bot mode for the most part. There's some Groove is
Groove's the
ugly.
worst. Yeah.
Groove's
Yeah,
ugly, isn't he?
Yeah. Groove and Streetwise, I think, are the weakest of them. I think mainly Streetwise just because of his weird. I don't know about you guys, but I always folded his hood up to compress it more into the chest than what they've done in the image here, which is they've just kind of left it flapping down.
Yeah, because it's a bit odd, isn't it? It looks a bit.
I don't think they transformed that right. That's strange.
Yeah.
And Groove might be ugly, but I think for a motorbike at this scale, for what it's meant to do as well,
Yeah,
okay.
I'd go with that. He's all right, isn't he? You know,
it's fine.
He's fine. You know, for what he's meant to do, he's fine.
Pretty tooled up as well.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
The fact that he can actually use those pannier guns in robot mode on his legs, that's
kind of cool, right?
a nice touch.
I
That
think
is kind of cool.
I think his biggest problem is he doesn't have a super satisfying transformation because I never liked flipping his legs down and clipping them into position. That wasn't very fun. And his arms are. I know this doesn't sound fair because we got blades, but his arms feel really big and flat.
They do. Yeah,
really
they do.
big and flat.
Yeah, because they were just
so.
pipes from the side folded up in one assembly. Which is,
But
he's one of the.
But he gets naughty with the fact that she did at least give him a hole in the side of the arm to hold his gun.
Uh-huh.
They couldn't even be asked to give to the robot.
I don't think I wouldn't describe it as they couldn't be asked. I think it was just they had a different design aesthetic that they were going for that they then realized this was a bad idea.
Yeah, and it was a bad idea.
It was.
Yeah, it was a bad idea.
Yeah.
But no, as a set, I think the protector box is quite fun.
Mm-hmm.
And the combined mode's pretty solid. It's actually good. Defensor's all right.
Yeah.
He's definitely not as cool again as the Decepticon ones, but compared to Superion, he looks like he's more filled out because he's not gangly in any places, and I don't remember mine ever being floppy, unlike what you said about Superion. It was.
No, mine was quite solid compared to the Superion.
Yeah, this was the only Scramble City combiner I had complete when I was a kid, and he was good. He was a good, solid bit of work.
I think maybe. Well, I was going to say maybe one of the issues is he has 2 chess pieces. Like he has extra parts that you can lose compared to Superior.
Yes.
Not many more.
God, yes, but he does.
Yeah, not many more, but there are a few.
It is counteracted by the fact that the fact that those 2 chess pieces, you can actually use them on the fire truck.
That's
which
nice.
You can't with.
It helps. Yeah.
Yeah, that is nice.
That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's that all of the Autobot ones. Yeah, that's all of the Autobots that we haven't covered. Just because of how time's going on. I think, shockingly, lads, that might be where we have to call the show.
Okay, no worries. I mean, I'd be absolutely happy. I mean, for my particular bias, I'd be really happy to come back and do some of the Decepticons.
I was going to say, would you be interested? Because we do have the Decepticons, which
totally.
I mean, who do we have? We have Predaking, we have Nor, Galvatron, we have Octane. Sweet Scourge and Cyclonus, the Stunticons.
Cripes, yes. I'd be well up for that.
Yeah. And run about and run
Magons. You got the battle charges.
Yeah, well, we don't talk about them too much. There's not too much to say about battle charges.
Really. They are basically McDonald's toys, aren't they? Let's be honest.
Yeah,
they're not great.
That is the Autobot side, I guess, of 1986. Thank you guys for coming on by. Where can people find you on the internet if you want them to? George, where can people find you on the internet?
Oh my goodness. Well, you can find me over at the Exaggerated Elegy channel on YouTube, where there's a lot going on at the moment. I'm currently doing a series where some friends of mine and I discuss the episodes of Brian Fuller's Hannibal, because we absolutely adore that show. Nice. Lots of video game stuff, lots of literature stuff and whatnot. You can find links to all of my published work, because I'm a writer of fiction, over at strangeplaygrounds.com, or if you go to the Evil Empire of Amazon and type in George Daniel Lee, you'll find my short story collections, of which there are quite a few.
Are you going to get any Audible stuff done, do you think, at some point? Because I think that'd be interesting.
I'm sure I will. I think that'd be fun, actually. That'd be a nice sort of extension of, for people who prefer to consume books that way. Absolutely, yeah, that'd be fun. That would be a lot of fun. There are going to be 2 new short stories being published very soon from Kevin J. Kennedy Publications. I've got 2 short stories in 2 different anthologies, one of which is a collection of sort of like kaiju horror stories, which was a lot of fun to write, an enormous amount of fun to write, and another one which is a collection of science fiction horror stories, so branching out a little bit, into different genres, which is really, really good fun. Also, very recently, if you hop on over to Arrow Films, the UK DVD distributor, you'll find a pre-order for a new Hellraiser box set, and my colleague Kit Power and I actually feature on those DVDs on an extra on the Hellbound DVD, which is called Hell is What They Wanted. And I think that's it for me.
Cool. That's pretty cool. What about you, Big D?
Well, I am a semi-regular contributor both to the Fluff and Hammer and the UKAnime.net, where I'm one of their resident mech heads. I also curate the Fluff and Hammers watch along each month. If anyone's interested, on the Discord. Then we're doing a special this bank holiday weekend on the Saturday, because I found out some people hadn't watched all the John Wick movies. So at 2 p.m, the watch along becomes the John Wickathon. All 4 movies back to back. And then the week after is October's pick, which will be Beastmaster and Dog Soldiers.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, I'll be on for the Dog Soldiers, I can tell you.
Yeah.
That's such a good film.
Eclectic again for dice rolling. Yes.
Such a good film.
Such a bonkers movie.
Yeah, it's great.
Every month I get the guys to roll up a couple of D20s for me, and we pick the next 2 films. And I'm always open to suggestions if you're on the Discord, so we don't turn anything down.
Awesome
if enough people ask for it, we're more than happy to put something back into rotation. Otherwise, just look for the weird Welsh-sounding name and the cup icon, and that's probably me on various social medias, where I generally post, normally miniatures I'm building, to be honest, and then Andy tries to get me to paint them.
That's right. Gotta get them paint on, boys.
Yeah, we both need to do that, I think, to be honest. It's definitely something that needs to happen,
Yeah.
Right.
I have ideas on that score. I'm working on it.
Well, you can find me on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube as Decayed Andy, the rotten corpse of a human being that I am. You can also find me on the Fluff and Hammer podcast, where me and George are actually recording Tuesday?
I think so.
Tuesday? Probably Tuesday.
Oh, cool.
Probably Tuesday.
Let's say tentatively Tuesday.
Yes, that tentatively Tuesday.
Yes, just for
tentatively Tuesday. I like that.
Double T Tuesday.
Yeah.
And you can also find us on the Moonbase 2 forums. We're on Twitter, iTunes, Facebook, Libsyn, YouTube as Moonbase 2 Transformers Podcast. We're on patreon.com/Moonbase2. And if you want to help out the show for $2 each month, it's very much appreciated. And I'm sure at some point we'll get more Patreon shows going for that as well. And we're also on the ccbunker.weebly.com. I do have in my hands at the moment the Fans Hobby Buster or Dreadwind, whichever way you want to say it. So I'm thinking about when I have time, maybe getting a video done on that, but I'm not sure. I need to think about what I want to do for it. I might just shoot some B-roll tonight.
I've seen so many people with him in hand and was thinking, that looks so good.
He does have a few niggles here and there, but generally I'd say he's a lot better than Power of the Primes one. Jesus Christ. That was a shit figure. What a disappointment. But until next week, everybody, I don't know what's happening. Hopefully Mikey will be here, so we'll be able to get the TF Nation podcast out. And then I guess because it'll have been 3 weeks of no news, we'll probably have to do a news show. Then I'll arrange with these guys, hopefully at some point when we'll do another one of these, because I'm enjoying going through these.
This is fun.
Yeah.
This is really fun.
Yeah, it's great fun.
Yeah, and I'm very eager to get onto some Decepticons, I can tell you.
No, definitely. I'm actually really desperate to get onto Headmaster era, because that's my favorite era.
Me too. I love that era. I love that era. The colours. The colours.
The stupid gimmicks, which I love irrationally.
Which are mad but great.
Yeah. So much fun. But until then, thank you everybody for coming on by, and we will catch you next time for some Moonbase 2 good times. Goodbye, everybody.
Ta-ta.
Later.